$1 million man always gets his way. I'm Vin.
I'm sorry.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the Filthy Capitalist option. As Sorry says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get matched down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at itsorry@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village. Facebook.com/VinandSorry. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sorry and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy merch.
And here we are! Thank you guys so much for being patient. Our internet has died. It still dies. Probably going to die until this recording. Remo's birthday. So,
We have In the meantime, we have a celebration in hand.
Yes.
It's Revo's birthday.
On this day 22 years ago, Revo was born.
I guess 22 years ago.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Here's our cupcake. I'll sail him in.
Happy birthday, dear Revo. Happy birthday to
뭐 이리 많은 걸 요구해만 하는가? 우리에게 같은 길을 가게 하고 있다. 우리의 목표를
Unfortunately, we don't have a BTS version.
Oh no! BTS has been going the whole time! Speaking of BTS, here's the song, Classroom Idea.
This is still our first time listen, not yours.
They got a little preview, inshallah. Okay, let's do it. You ready?
Yep.
Let's go.
Ready.
매일 아침 7시 30분까지 조그만 교실로 우리 모두를 몰아넣고 전국에 있는 900만 학생들의 머릿속에 일제히 똑같은 것만을 강요하고 있다.
They're pushing the same thing all at once.
꽉 막혀버린
Clogged. Everyone,
사방을
everywhere is
모두가
clogged.
막혀버린
What can you do in this black classroom?
이 시커먼 교실 속에서
You guys recognize that there is nothing?
아무것도 없다는 것을
I am me,
너희들은
you are you?
인식하는가?
Why try to put it the same?
나는 나이고 너는 너인데
You have the right to
왜
learn what
같은
you
것을
want.
집어넣으거나 하는가?
School is letting us go the same way.
뭘 그리 많은 걸 요구해야만 하는가?
We're only making our goal to one.
학교는
In this dark
우리에게
classroom,
같은 길을
your
가게 하고
future
있다.
is increasingly,
우리의 목표를 하나의 야공안이 있다.
it's getting narrower.
이 시커먼 교실 속에서
That's what he's saying.
너희들의 미래는 점점 좁아져만 가고 있는데
metal.
This is quite a show.
This is metal. This ain't K-pop. This is metal. Oh.
Oh, I like this.
Hey, hey, hey.
됐어 이제 그런 가르치면 됐어 좋게
Okay.
세상 드러내가는 너의 매일 아침 7시 30분까지 우린
7:30.
정보만 교수로 몰아넣고 전국 900만의 아이들의 모두 똑같은 것만 집어넣고 있어 마켓 사방이 마켓 넌 모두를 먹어 삼킨 이 시간 내 전음을 보내기는 너무 아까워 점점 비싼 너로 만들어주겠어 네 옆에 앉아있는 그대보다 더 하나씩 머리를 막 올라서 더럽게 좀 더 잘난 내가 될 수가 있어 잘했어 미션 강제다
So heavy. It's
래먼
good.
아이슈와의 방탄소년단
I'm done. Now I'm done with these kinds of teachers. Now I'm good. brother minister. 어서오냐.
방탄소년단 뵙겠습니다.
Talk to him, brother minister. That shit was hard, bro.
You know what's funny?
That was hard.
Okay, so as Christians, we believe that every single person is born sinful. Like, that's just it. You just are.
Yeah.
You just are who you are. And then God helps you with your bad attitudes and whatever. But I always feel like when I watch these people are not bad. They're not bad. They're not bad.
They're just good all around.
They don't throw fits like our little Orion does. They never did that when they were little.
This is like, it's funny because this is kind of like a rebellion song for them.
Yeah, well, it was really good. It was really good. What?
I'm trying to lower this thing.
Okay.
There we are. I returned. What's happened?
Everything's falling apart.
Like our lives. I have returned.
Okay. Yeah,
It was a really good song. It was an education system over there in South Korea, right?
What parts of it I saw, I don't disagree for us in America either.
Okay, so let me look at Revo's summary real quick.
This is from the father of K-pop. He was the bassist of a metal band and went solo, forming a boy band that played ballad, new jack swing, and metal-style hybrid music. This is a protest song. This one is aiming at the education system of South Korea. Because he played it as a boy band, the trend continued of forming boy and girl bands. His boy band's TV network debut was on April 11th, 1992. The judges hated his music, but he revolutionized youth music in South Korea.
Wow. So, like, this is, like, almost to the day. Not, April 11th,
Yeah,
92.
That's true.
It's 12 April.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like a day after Revo was born 22 years ago.
No,
so there you are.
Revo was born yesterday. Today he has the day off from work. That's why he wanted his birthday songs to come out today.
Oh, so that happened on his birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the initial speech was, they drive us all into the classroom of death by 7:30 every morning. In the heads of 9 million students across the country, they're pushing the same thing all at once. Clogged. Everyone everywhere is clogged. What can you do in this black classroom? Do you guys recognize that there's nothing? I am me, you are you. Why try to make us the same? What should I ask for so much? I think he's saying, is it too much to ask to be treated as an individual? You have the right to learn what you want. School is letting us go the same way. We are only making our goal to one. In this dark classroom, your future is increasingly getting narrower.
Yeah, but I feel like that's true all over the place. Like, there is very, very few kids that I meet that say they like school. I'm talking about the public school system. Most of them don't like it. And if they do, they're usually like in kindergarten or first grade.
Well, think about this. You have to be an extremely talented set of people to make learning a chore for children. Think about the babies.
Yeah.
The minute Orion sees something he hasn't seen before, he's like, ooh, what's... And then you tell him, this is a this, and this is a that, and then he repeats it. He goes, oh.
Right.
So little kids love learning.
He's just about 2 years old.
They love learning.
Right.
Children love learning. They like new things. They love the curiosity. The curiosity is a major part of children. And like the annoying habit that a kid has to get into everything, or they put everything into their mouth. It's because that's how they learn.
Right.
And so for them, they're one of the...
That's their form of Googling that.
Well, yeah, like one of the earliest ways that they process the fact that they relate to the outside world is actually eating. So you take something from the outside world and you've got this gateway where you can ingest something and it makes you feel good. So they process that with everything. So it's like, oh, this phone is going to... And so then they start learning to differentiate. Even playing peekaboo is educational. It teaches a child object permanence. So there's so many things that kids love to learn. But we've created a school system in which we've made something that children love to do naturally as a chore.
Yep.
And the public education system just across the board is insane. Like, I was in a meeting a couple days ago, so it was Johan, Dorian, and then it was a bunch of other kids from all over the place. Literally, like, we had some people in Jamaica, New York, Texas, Florida. It's basically this team thing. And Johan was I'm pretty sure the youngest contributor. Was that other girl was 10 years old.
Oh, she was 10?
Not the the star, the other one. But there was a clear difference between my kids, our kids, and the rest of those kids.
Absolutely.
And it's because
the stuff that he communicated and the level of understanding of the topic that he communicated.
Sophistication.
Yeah, it was much deeper. He was completely comfortable. We had to tell him to chill out a little bit because he was talking too much.
He's a room full of people that he'd never met before, and
right.
and he was just. And you know, Dorian's on the phone with Amazon right now, running the business, things of that nature. The girls are, you know, Sayla figured out.
Did you see the way that she's been creating that art?
Yeah, and
she's been sketching it.
Right, and she created her own DIY.
Yeah, stylus.
Stylus, which she looked up herself.
Yeah.
She looked it up. She figured, you know, the stylus is like $100.
Yeah.
So she's like, look at these sketches, Mr. Finn. Look at these sketches. And I'm like, I thought she just like copied and pasted it or something. She drew it.
Right.
And she's an actual artist. Holy shit, I had no idea. But she figured it out herself. She didn't talk to any, you know, most kids would
she
be
said
like,
when she was creating the stylus that all the kids were like laughing at her and like, this is never going to work.
Yeah.
And she was like dead set on doing it. So she kept going with it.
Yeah.
And then it worked and everybody's like, oh, okay.
Well, and that's completely self-initiated.
Right.
She's able to use the technique. She had a goal. What is a normal, you know, 10, 11-year-old kid going to say, Mom, Dad, get me a stylus, whatever. She didn't do that. She's like, you know what? I can figure it out. And she figured out. And when I see her write with it and whatever, I don't see the difference between if we got the official one and what she's doing. Like,
it seems like the official one would be a little bit easier to work with.
It's a little bit easier, but
I feel like that's even more like when I see the art that she creates with this bootleg stylus, I'm like, she has some talent in that.
But this is our kids. They're extremely entrepreneurial. They you know, they come to us for things, but they've been socialized. Figure it out. So like Dorian's like adjusting prices and all that shit. It's like, I adjusted the price on that. Like I'll tell him like, hey, we gotta move on this price on this particular thing on Amazon. He's like, I already did. Like it's all of them are like that. Zoe's writing
get that.
Zoe's writing a screenplay right now. Like she's
literally books and books and books. She's just filling with. I have to keep buying her books online because she keeps just filling them and filling them.
Yeah, these are all things that and Johan's an avid reader.
It's crazy too because
he's reading to his baby brother right now.
So within our schooling, it's hard for me to kind of like deviate at all from traditional school because I had it in my head that traditional school is the best way. And I'm beginning to see
best way or only way, because I don't think that those are the same thing. You see what I'm saying? Like, did you think it was the best way, or did you think it was did you even think there were other ways and methodologies
I felt like it was best
theories
and
of
only.
learning? Okay.
Best and only.
Okay.
Because anything outside of that, but you have to understand, I was homeschooled growing up. And so my mom, when she started homeschooling us, it was not, people didn't even know about it. You would say, where do you go to school? And you'd say homeschool. And they'd say, what is that? Nobody even knew. We always had to introduce people to the idea.
Legal. Is that legal? Can you do that?
Where do you get your socialization? Blah, blah, blah. The same questions every single time. But anyway, so my mom lived in the fear of what if the government steps in? What if they try to take my kids because they say that you're not like educating your kids properly?
A lot of that.
What's that called when you don't take care of your kids?
Child
neglect. Like they were thinking, what if it's child neglect?
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. So my mom had a lot of stress around it. And I don't think that she intentionally put it on us, but we felt and knew that stress. Don't even look at those, babe.
So when I would ask you, where are the headphones?
No, I said
and
that.
You would say, I don't know.
No, I said, I don't know where yours are. I said, you can use mine as long as you bring them back.
These are my AirPods.
No, I bought you and I both a set, and I stuck mine right in there, and mine stay in there.
Okay, go ahead. Finish your
anyway,
story.
So that's how this, it was growing up. So then,
Isn't
now
Story
that I
so
school,
pretty? Oh my God.
now
go ahead.
Now that we school our own kids, I'm like, I still had that like stress about, okay, what if, but now I'm realizing that schooling is about educating a child and allowing them to grow and to learn. And so with Zoe, so she's writing book after book after book, creating an entire story, an in-depth story. So she's creating this story so well that even children that don't like to read are ingesting her book at like, when's the next one coming out? She passed it to the neighbor kid was reading it. Like, people are loving her series that she's creating. But I had her read a biography about someone that she was not interested in, but it was a school thing. So I had her read the biography, and then I had her write a report. This report, there was so much pulling teeth to get this report. She was like, this is going to be the worst report. She had no heart, no feeling into it. And then that's when I was like, she's writing what it is she's interested in writing, and nobody even has to tell her to pick up that book and start writing. She'll be like, matter of fact, she was upset the other day because she was called to do something when she was writing.
Oh, yeah.
Because she wanted to keep doing, which is school. Yeah. She doesn't even realize she's doing school. So the girl was upset to stop doing school. So I'm with this. Like, the way that they're, the drives us all into the classroom of death by 7:30.
And I just think
they don't have a lot of options when you throw a bunch of kids in. You have to educate all of them.
When you look at I don't know what it's like in South Korea. I'm sure the standards are much, much higher, but if you look at what COVID has done, me and you have this conversation a lot, where I was overhearing a conversation with a teacher basically, and the teacher basically said they pushed everyone through last year, and nobody basically did any school. Mm-hmm. You just push them through the grade. It's like, and then of course there's that whole, when am I going to use this 9th degree calculus in my real life?
And there are some kids that are interested in that, and that's probably because the field that they're going to when they're out of school is something that's going to involve that.
Yeah, and the thing is that, you look at Dorian and you look at his constitution, he's going to be doing the Amazon entrepreneurial business thing for his whole life.
Right.
It's not like, I'm giving, usually as a parent you say, look, we're giving you these skills for your future. Mm-hmm. Like, he's right now.
Yeah, we don't have to tell him.
It's not for his future.
Yeah.
It's now. It's the same thing. Like, all this, like, we're training them how to function in the world in such a way as to get what they want from the world and to give to the world what they want to give. Mm-hmm. That's the point of it. That's the ultimate goal of education. Mm-hmm. And, I'm a little bit of an outside, unconventional type of thinker. I'm asymmetrical. I understand that. But at the same time, it's like, you couldn't stop me from reading when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But when I went to school, they were saying that my reading comprehension was below average and that I was almost going to end up in remedial reading, remedial reading class.
That's interesting.
And if I didn't have a very strong-willed mother, I would have been. Mm-hmm. And, my mom basically pulled me aside and says, don't believe any of this bullshit. You're the smartest kid in that class. And I was, until this kid Nick showed up. This kid Nick was like mega gifted kid.
Oh, really?
Brilliant kid. But like, I'm glad I had a parent like that believed in me and didn't just go. And that's the other thing too, is like a lot of parents surrender their parenting obligations and privileges to the educational system. Mm-hmm. So the educational system tells you your kid is XYZ. You know your kid better than they do, but they're the experts. So yeah, let's put him on Ritalin. Let's put him in this. It's just insane. My brother, he's like, yo, I'm getting out of New York City. I was like, what happened, big bro? Like they tried to drug up his kids and didn't tell him. Yeah, like
oh my gosh,
all this other shit. And he was like, that's not something you thought I should know? Like,
what? Honestly, that makes me extremely angry. Like, who do these people think they are? These are our children. You don't have any rights over our children unless we're like, this is the Nazi regime.
You send them to that institution for 6-7 hours a day.
That was what Hitler basically said, something like that. You control the youth, you control the nation. Yeah. And then they were putting the kids in those schools.
Hitler Youth.
Yeah.
And you had them all singing a little Pledge of Allegiance.
Wearing their little red.
Pledge of Allegiance to Hitler at the beginning of the day.
Right, exactly. I have a major problem with that. And I think that the public school systems, the teachers, like, I've met some teachers that really love their students. I guess we could just say her name, Ellie. Ellie, she seems like she really loves her students. You know what I mean? She's really into it. But even if you love your students, you don't have the time or the resources to be able to figure out what is each child's interest and how can I, mold their school around that individual child. So they basically have to just teach them everything and force everybody forward.
One learning
like
style.
it said,
One
he
methodology.
said as one, where was that?
I think it was up at the intro when he was talking.
Was it?
Yeah.
Thought it was
But go
right
ahead.
at the end.
As one.
But
what-
basically, you're just pushing all the kids together as like one big thing. You're just pushing the masses forward, and that's all that you can do because you can't work with them any other way. Like sometimes some of our kids, one of our kids will be like distracted, but it's because she just doesn't want to do the schoolwork. But it's time for us to focus in. Like, you got to work on focusing and stuff. And then there's sometimes where I can tell that, they need to just take an extra break. Go run around, use up some of that energy and come back and we'll go back in. But you have that flexibility when you're the parent and that they're your kids. I mean,
yeah. Oh, I agree.
we're all making our goal to one. That's what that meant to me. School is letting us go the same way. We are all making our goal to one. So everybody's funneled forward in the same direction with all this information. For me, I literally hated history. And I hated history so much that I like vowed to myself that once I graduated, I was never ever going to engage in anything that had any sort of historical whatever, which is probably why I have a hard time engaging in political conversations. Because I'm like, look, I spent myself going through school doing that. I hated it. I was forced to overlearn and memorize so many stupid dates. And like, not even just the year, but you had to have the day and the month and the year. And you had to know the location, not just the state, but down to the city. And there was just way too much. And all the classes, it was so much information that I got overwhelmed. And then literally, I just hated it. I hated it.
Yeah, and we, during the whole debates, during the, Democratic primaries, the kids would sit in and watch. And then they would do a little summary at the end.
Yeah.
And then they got their
It
credit.
was really interesting to hear their summaries too, because it wasn't just, again, if you force them, if you say, okay, you have to write a 500-page report. Basically, we just said, sit down and write to us what, it had to be a page, but, write to us what it is that you learned from this. And then they're not so much focused on counting the words, like of how big the report has to be. They're just writing down what they learned. And then you get to see all their interesting little perspectives, and their style of writing is all different. Which again, at the beginning, I felt like I had to conform Zoe to a certain writing style instead of embracing. She's an excellent writer.
The stupid Egyptians, you remember that?
Yeah. And you were like, oh, I laughed a little bit, but I was like, holy shit, you can't put that in a school paper, stupid Egyptians. But then now I see, like, that's her perspective.
It was like they thought.
Well, they did something that was stupid.
It was something where like they thought something about Pharaoh was a god or something like that. And,
Can't remember.
And, Zoe's like, well, obviously Christianity's true. These guys are dumb. But yeah, and even the last one, the impeachment thing with Trump, and then the bus getting ran off the side of the road, and Selah was like, "Oh my God," because Selah's a big Trump person,
Right,
you know?
right.
And then and then to look at Dorian and be like, because Dorian, you guys know DL Beluga, he's a massive Trump Ben Shapiro, and you like as
This
like
picture of Trump came up on the TV last night. He was like, look at him. He looks so, what did he say? Like, in other words, that Trump looked
dashing
so
or handsome or
glorious.
something.
And
Glorious.
it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Trump's all there with his orange and... But it's his opinion, so carry on.
But yeah, just watching them like react to that stuff, and then explaining what the impeachment was and what we were trying to do and all this, and then they each did a report.
Yep, and then they had to do it in front of all of us.
And they had to do it in front of all of us.
So there's a public speaking going on.
Selah got over it. But again, it's like...
And one more thing. After supper, we actually sat down, like, after supper finished, and then this political discussion starts, and all the kids are, like, huddled around Vin, and they're all... I'll probably post a picture on Insta.
There was science, too, because we were talking about COVID and...
Yeah, there was so much stuff that was going on in that
not only
conversation.
did he die of COVID, he died of a
And
heart
nobody
attack.
was forced to be in it. It was just, this was happening, and everybody stayed because they were interested in it. Selah, if she's not interested in it, she's going to ask if she can leave.
Yeah, and like... We're talking about science. We're talking about virology, how it works, epidemiology, and then the interface between that and the political sphere, and how it works with certain amendments and things like that. And so now, I can see the rebuttal, which is, yeah, you guys can do that because you guys you work from home, and you have the time to look at the minutia of virology and blah blah. You can do that, and then you can hang out with your kids and have that discussion because you're not completely exhausted, and your kids aren't exhausted. A regular person in a normal circumstance is done probably 10 to 12 hours of work away from their home. You know, when you put in the commute.
Yeah, exactly.
They get home. The kids have done I don't know what it is now, 6 to 8 hours of school. And then navigating all the bullying and all the other bullshit that happens. Then they come home, they decompress by going out, hanging out with their friends, and then they come inside, and there's a whole bunch of issues with that ecosystem too. So by the time everybody's home, they're getting the dregs of mom and dad, and mom and dad are getting the dregs of the kid.
Yeah.
And
then the kid still has homework.
And then the kid's got homework.
Right.
And then the parent, once the kid gets out of 3rd, 4th grade, doesn't feel suitable to even be able to help the kid. I mean, there's a lot of, like last week with math, we were doing something about fractions or something, like adding fractions and then LCD and all that. And like I had to relearn it. You know,
The girl came in and knew exactly what was going on.
I had to go in there, go back to the
But I had to relearn it before I could teach it.
There's a little demo that they show the kids before, and I had to look at the demo about 4 or 5 times, and then I figured it out. And then, well, actually, what ended up happening is me and Sayla figured it out together, and then we just went along. I think most parents would love that opportunity to be able to do that with their kids. It's a very bonding, it's an unbelievable thing, but it's like you're asking them to do that after 10 hours of work when they've got pretty much nothing left to give.
Yeah.
And then you're asking the kid to be able to do that after he just did 6 hours of prison, you know, like.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that
it's very, very hard for your average parent to be able. We're very, very blessed. Like, I think we also, we initiated certain things, and, you know, I pretty much, it's actually one of the things that ended up being the last straw for Homegirl when she left, because she was trying to put him in public school the last year she was here, because she, you know, whatever. And I said, no, we ain't doing that.
Well, it's interesting because...
And that was that was a major, major issue for her. Major issue for her.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really clear on why that was. Only not that we need to get into it, but just because the way that you're kind of like, the way that you feel about school and how you go about the learning, it's much more like relaxed, and it encourages good positive learning. Where I can see if you're trying to do it the way I was used to, it's such a stressful experience. Because I was always feeling like nobody's learning enough, nobody's, you know, because if it wasn't a grueling, frustrating process for them, I didn't feel satisfied.
Right.
I literally used that word when we were talking.
You did.
I'm like, no, there needs to be, I used the word grueling.
Yeah. And I was like, what? Wait, what? No, why?
I was like, yet again, we don't agree. Now that my mind is changing more on it, and I'm seeing like, you know, so Sayla, first of all, like a lot of times when I would like force the kind of like reading this certain thing, I'd be to the end, I'd be like, so what do you guys, nobody's really saying what they learned. Now, when they're like digging into the stuff that they're interested in, I'm encouraging their natural interests. Like Sayla was talking about these animal rescues and what they did to get these animals to a safe location, and how they like, she had details that she normally wouldn't have had. So she's still, you know, she's learning about animals, and she's learning about, you know, strategy and logic and caring, and, you know, there's lots of jobs that she could do that would involve animals.
That little pen thing she did, I know it seems trivial, but that to me is so massive.
The stylist. The
way that she did that. And because Sayla usually is one of those go with the crowd type people. She it's one of the things that, you know, I've really tried to develop with her is like, man, if you believe in something, just stand on it. Who cares what other people say? It's a conversation you and I have a lot. So for her to do that in the midst of all of that, I get it. You know, controversy, whatever. It wasn't like people were trying to kill her, blah, blah. But still, I don't care. Like, that shows so much growth to me.
Oh, yeah.
And the self-initiation and entrepreneurialism is a real big value in this family. Like, we really front and center it. And it's not because of the monetary ramifications. It's about being able to use your mind and the resources that you have around and the natural talents that God gave you and you put all that together, you synthesize that and find ways to monetize it.
Yep.
So they're creating their own YouTube channels, being heavily policed, obviously, by us. We'll be promoting that pretty soon, so you can see some of their work. But you're talking about that whole gotcha thing is programming. It's computer programming what they're doing. They're getting basic computer programming and things of that nature. Editing. You know, like you could teach a master class on it now, and it's we've seen millionaire operations that do not edit as well as you did. So
well, I don't edit anymore.
So
that's you.
Like, well, that's Ecamm.
Yeah, Ecamm does it all.
Shout out to Amy Lee forever. So yeah, it's just the educational system. You know, I just feel very, very blessed. And what I would say to people is, if you can do it, do it.
It doesn't take, like, if you're looking at it and you're like, holy shit, 6 to 8 hours? I can't do 6 to 8 hours when I get to work. It doesn't take that long.
It's not that long.
You just sit down with your kid and you're looking at maybe between 1 and 4 hours. It's not a...
Well, we've got a teaching liaison that works with us, and so she talks about addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Like, those are non-negotiables and, you know, traditional class. Like, that's not something they're going to pick up and learn by, oh, well, I mean, it depends. You got a mathematically inclined kid, he might just do that.
Yeah.
But those things, like, you definitely, basic spelling, like, definitely, for sure. We're not talking about, like, compromising on the essentials.
No.
But once that foundation is laid, and you should have that foundation laid pretty easily by the 4th grade, right? Once you get that foundation laid, man, and you let these kids loose, man, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, she was actually the first one that kind of made me think maybe there's other styles, there's other ways.
Yeah.
Because she was accredited and she had been working with homeschool students and she was a teacher, and she was saying, like, up until a certain grade, she said, like, at some point, you know, according to her curriculum, you're going to start teaching, like, heavy sciences. Yeah. But up until a certain grade, she's like, send them out to catch a frog. Let them explore the forest. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Are you sure? But now I'm like, yeah, like, there's so much. I don't remember what I learned in school in my science books. I do remember what I learned when I went out and explored our backyard and in the vines, and there was this crazy yellow and black spider that had a skull-looking thing on its back. Like, I remember that not because of school, but because it was something that I was interested in, and so I sketched it. I made a clear sort of bookmark out of it, and that was all stuff that I did because it was self-motivated. If you look at some of these lyrics, he said, look at this. So he was like, I'm done with those kinds of teachings. Then he talks about the 4 wall. Rigid. Okay. You corner us into a tiny classroom. You're stuffing the brains of this nation's 9 million kids with the same exact things. Rigid. Yeah. The 4 rigid walls are swallowing you and us all together. My youth is too precious to be spent in this pitch black classroom. That actually makes me sad because I agree. I think that, like, I hated school. I hated being in those rooms. I hated being, like, stuck there for that amount of time and feeling like, oh, that's probably a doctor's office. You can carry on.
Pause for a moment.
Hello? Hi. Yep. Yes.
So, is that the pre-question?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I just think that, you know, the modern education system, you know, they're saying, you know, we're being stuck in these, you know, in these these black walls or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that there is a benefit to the state if everybody thinks the same way. At least on the American side. Are you done the call already?
I told her to just call back and go to my voicemail. Is there a way to switch it right to voicemail? There's not.
If you just do that, it'll go straight to voicemail. But anyway, but as far as the rigidity of the education, when you bring up the Hitler Youth thing, I mean, that is an extreme example, but that's a fact. Mm-hmm. You know, and you know how I know that everybody knows this at a subliminal level? Because whenever somebody criticizes us for homeschooling, one of the first things they say is, you're just trying to brainwash your kids. Yep. Well, wait a second. Me schooling my own children is me brainwashing them? That means you're conceding that when I send them to the public institution, the education is designed to really brainwash them.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, no, the state should be able to brainwash your kids. Like, that's crazy to me. Now, of course, people don't understand how things go here because people have certain perceptions. But we go out of our way to show there's a contrary view.
Oh.
Or have you thought about this? Like Dorian with the whole wage gap thing.
Yeah.
Dorian and I actually had a moderated videotape debate about the wage gap.
Yeah. Did you put that up somewhere?
I think I put it up on Middle America, but I didn't make it live, so I'll jump in after and make it live.
Yeah.
But we were like, oh, really? It's real? Oh, okay. Well, let's have a debate, and we did it. He did his research. We did a moderated debate, and then the kids were able to ask him questions, back and forth during the whole. So yes, they do get contrary views. They get way more contrary views with us than they would in a public school.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's just very, very interesting how people use that brainwashing thing when they talk about homeschoolers. Because it's like, okay, so you're admitting that at some level that is the design of our current education system. And you're upset at me that my kids are going to be brainwashed with my worldview instead of the milk-toast secular humanist worldview that they're getting from the education system. So the state has a benefit in making rigid education for people. But I also think, like, when you look at a guy like Ian, for example, he's talked about being homeschooled and how much that would have benefited him. Ian being on the spectrum, teachers they're not tooled up and equipped to individualize their teaching methodology to a kid on the spectrum. Because they've got 25 kids they have to deal with.
And even still, like, even if you love the kids, you don't love them like you love your own kids. So it's like...
I will say, some of these teachers love the students more than the parents love the students.
Yeah.
But I think... And teaching is, for the most part, a pretty thankless job, and in my opinion, underpaid.
Absolutely.
But teaching a kid on the spectrum is an extremely complex endeavor. And so that connection that you have with your child and the vested interest that you have in their success gives you the extra motivation you need to do the type of research and learn your child's learning style so that you can give them the best possible experience. You're asking a woman most of the time who has 2 or 3 kids of her own and 20 kids to educate to take that time and do that, and it's just impractical for them. So there's just a lot of people who've been given a certain narrative about their abilities and who they are and whatever because of the education system. And they carry around their entire lives this lie that they're not intelligent, they're not this, they're not that, there's something wrong with them. I cannot even imagine being on the spectrum and being in that environment and the bullying and the it's just absolutely toxic. So this is a very, 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 very important elementary to middle school, and after high school, they ship us off to a packing center. They nicely wrap you up in a wrapping paper called college just to make you look good. Now think, college. The time to hide behind the solemnity is over. Be more honest and you'll see. Which, of course, in America, I don't know their specific economic system, but in America, the college thing is a racket. And this is one of the things about, like,
almost
forgiving.
Every single person I know has at least about $40,000 in debt for their time in college, and they're not using the education that they received there to do the job that they went to college for.
That's normalized.
Yeah.
And then you get these libertarian, where's your personal responsibility? It's like bullshit, bro. When I was in school, in the Bronx, New York, once you hit junior year, these colleges would start coming into your and talking to you to basically recruit you at class. And the message was always, guys, you know that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a loser. You're going to be a drug dealer. You're going to get shot, blah, blah, blah. You want to, it's either college or prison or the grave. Like, literally, that's what they were telling us, right? So, like, you don't want to go to prison or the grave, do you? So let's go to college where you can be in prison and $40,000 of debt till the day you die. I think Forbes said the average American dies with like $20K in debt or something like that. Like, that's horrible. That's slavery. And so now all of us were sold this bill of goods that if you don't go to college, you're gonna join a gang and get shot or go to jail. So go to college, and then you rack up all this debt, and then it's like, sorry, like the economy has gone past what your major is. Are you gonna get a refund for that? Like, it's complete bullshit. You know, my dad was asking about Dorian in college, and Dorian is like, I'm gonna be at 6 figures by the time I'm ready to go to college.
Yep.
And he is.
Yep. Well, I think that the times are changing now, where there's so many more opportunities. So, like, we know somebody that they went to college for graphic design, all that in debt, and they're working at a fulfillment center, stacking pallets. They're not using their job. And when you think about like graphic, MO.
Don't know that. Oh yeah.
You know, like when you think about graphic design, like everybody's doing their own, like so many people, you don't even have to try that hard. You go in there, you can buy a program for very cheap, and you can do your own stuff. Like, I never went to school or anything.
Or you can go to these little places like, I think it's Grammarly or something, and $10.
Right, exactly.
It's a $10 gig.
So all of a sudden, that everything that you went to school for, done.
You were talking to that lady from Africa, the Excel girl from Africa, and she's, you know, that's the other thing is you felt bad because she was only charging like $13 an hour.
No, she was charging $6 an hour.
$6 an hour.
I was like, $6 an hour.
And she felt, she's like, what are we supposed to do with this? She felt so guilty about it. And then I said, well, let's convert $6 American dollars into $6 Ugandan dollars or whatever. It was like $90, $100 or some crazy
I was like,
number.
oh my gosh, she's charging a lot per hour.
But think,
this works out for everybody.
Think about the ramifications. Now we're global.
Yep.
It's a digital interface. She can she can set a price. Like, we just bought all these hand sanitizer things from Walmart for 25 cents. So we're gonna dominate that price range, because we can set it at anything we want. Nobody's going to be able to compete with that, because we're going to make a profit because we got them for a quarter.
Right.
Those things are usually $5-6, right?
Right.
So now think about this. This girl's in Uganda, or wherever she is. An American cannot compete with that rate.
No, it's true. Yeah.
So somebody's going to figure this shit out where they only employ somebody from another country.
Of course.
And then set up that site and say, we're going to do it for at rates that nobody can compete at.
Yep.
You get a cadre of those people, like I just came up with a business idea, see?
There it is. Somebody action that.
Seriously, you get 9-10 people, right?
Yeah.
And 9-10 Excel wizards. You set up a website and say, hey, we can get you, you know, all your Excel shit for $6 an hour. Nobody's going to be able to compete. And it's going to be, this girl went to college for it. Like, she's college educated, this one. And so we're going to bless those people. And then also, you pretty much have the corner market.
Everybody wins.
Because people can't.
Well, not everybody. The people that.
Okay, like, if I set Dorian on a project like that, he can get a website up and that done in 10 seconds. Like, I'm actually going to talk to him about it afterwards. Thank you very much, Rebo, for this idea. and you watch what he does with that in a year. Like, it's that easy.
Yeah.
But all of us have been, like, put in this crazy box for whatever, and it's like, it's ridiculous. So I thought the song was important, and I'm very surprised, considering the financial component that Americans have to go through when it comes to, you know, secondary and tertiary education, that there isn't more stuff like this on our side.
Yeah, to be honest with you, this is going to sound really terrible, but I feel like people are not there. The educational system has influenced them so heavily, because literally every single time somebody found out that we were homeschooled, the same questions would get asked. What about your socialization? Is there anybody that checks in on your work to verify that it's actually getting done? Are you going to be able to get into college? All of those are the same questions. It's like they were taught by the same teachers to kind of like view a situation a certain way.
It's just pure statism.
Because if you could just pull yourself back out and have no opinions about either one, and both were laid on the table, you know, anybody with any sort of thinking mind would say homeschooling would be a better option for those kids.
It's pure statism.
Yeah.
And you know it's statism because the state allowed for homeschooling last year because they had no choice, and then homeschooling was okay.
And the thing is, even with this,
That's-
like the Zoom work that these kids are doing, I was talking to a kid outside and I was like, so how does that work? And she was basically saying, well, when I get on there, it's very hard for her to pay attention because she's on Zoom. Like when they're in the classroom, they're kind of like, you're in these four walls and you're kind of like herded in a certain direction. So it's easier to stay a little bit more focused.
I mean,
but now they're on Zoom. You got moms in the kitchen. Your toys are over there.
What do you mean?
It's very difficult for
I
them
got
to
the
stay
school issue
stay
computer,
focused.
right? And then all these kids have their smartphones. You know what those kids are doing? They're on Facebook. Half these kids aren't even on cam.
Right.
Like
And
I
the
used to work in a virtual environment, and I'd immediately say everybody's on cam.
Yeah.
Because when you're off cam, these kids are learning shit. Yeah, it's crazy.
But the
It's
other thing
absolutely
too,
crazy.
that I was talking to another mom about was that now because Google is available to everybody, kids can just Google the page that they're working on in school and literally fill that shit out without doing any of the work.
100%.
So they can prep for all the tests, they can do all that stuff without actually doing the work.
I commend them.
Where when you're homeschooling, you're actually seeing what they're doing and you're viewing their progress in real time. So.
But part of education is showing them how to use Google.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
There should be a course on how to. Like I agree. You were looking for something earlier. I'm like, she does not know how to use this tool.
No, it doesn't work well for me. And then
I find it in 2 seconds.
Right. That's why there's a lot of times where I'm like, can you just look that up? That's why when we were at the doctor's office and there was that thing that we have to look up, I'm like, are we going to do that? When I say we, I mean you. Because I don't trust myself to do that research because I don't know. When I first started using it, because I didn't have internet for like the majority of my life, it was just a couple of years ago that I started using. Actually, when we started the channel, really.
Yeah.
That's when I started using a computer. I didn't even know how to turn the computer on. Yeah. I didn't know how to find, to get to the internet. I could never remember which button it was. Like I was so far behind the times. But anyway, yeah, that happens. And so I would click on an ad and I would start getting my research from an ad. And then Dorian was like, Mom, what are you doing? That's an ad. And I'm like, it's an ad.
Yeah, and there is an art and science to Googling. And are kids being taught that? No.
Mm-mm.
People like,
Our
oh my
kids are
God.
better than I am
People
on
like,
that.
oh my God, Vin is so informative. He knows everything. A lot of this has to do with the fact that I've got a JSTOR account. So JSTOR, JSTOR, all my scholarly articles. You know, I pay a pretty hefty premium once a year, but then I get access to all these like top level scholar. I mean, they're University of Oxford, blah blah blah. That's why I don't lose debates. But like I got that trail from Google.
Yeah.
You know, I kept what about, and I'm like, oh, not somebody's opinion. I need a scholar, and then I kept getting routed to this JSTOR thing, and then there were some articles that were free, and the other articles you had to pay, and I'm like, no, this is definitely worth my money. And this was before we started making money. This was like years ago. But that has proven that. So like, it's things like that where it's like, I've read hundreds of articles that you would only be able to read at college, but and it's funny because like. In the login, it's like, what university are you part of? So a lot of the Yale one that I have is like, you had to be part of Yale University in order to get in. So like, it's just so much out there now that the traditional model that everybody's been pushed into just doesn't work. We spent way longer on this than I thought we were going to.
Shout out to Revo.
The magic number is 37 if you're still here. Let us know what you guys think about college. I'm going to give the song a 10. I loved the energy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm be honest, like the K-pop, like I have to get myself into a certain mode, you know, because it's not metal, and everybody knows I love guitar heavy shit, but that song was a metal song.
Well, he
it had
was
the attitude.
in metal before.
Yeah, it had the attitude, and I got to tell you, I felt proud to be an American because that's our culture.
Oh.
It was the hip hop and then the new metal.
Oh, yeah.
And it was basically that particular song would not have been made were it not for, you know, the beboppers outside in the Bronx. Because this was some like Beastie Boys type shit like that they were doing. And the metal was, you know, typical new metal. Like I was just very proud to be an American. Like, yo, we did that shit, bro. Much love to South Korea. Much love to Rio. It's a 10 for me. Happy birthday, big homie.
Happy birthday. All right.
What did you give it?
What did I give it? You know what? I'll throw in with you on a 10 because I really love the energy.
It's such an important
very
subject.
good energy. And the subject is, for me, extremely important because
You
I've
couldn't
made...
tell it's pretty close to our hearts.
yeah, well, I've made a lot of changes this year in my view of it.
And it's been less stressful for me.
And for the children as well.
It's been more enjoyable. I'm like, sorry, are you kidding me? But you were just complete. Now I see.
I was
that
just scared.
You were just. Americans are traumatized and have the Stockholm syndrome with the state and their children.
Yep.
My kids are not wards of the state. My kids are my kids.
I know. You kept saying that, and I was like, no, I agree with you, but at the same time,
no, there's no
I don't want anybody coming in and. But that's the message I got all the time.
They come in. That's a mistake. That would be a mistake. You shouldn't do that. This is America.
I mean, we don't spank. Our kids are like way too big for spanking, even if we were to spank. But like, that was even something that like, you know, my parents, you didn't get spanked in public. That was never gonna happen. So like everything was quiet, and then when you got home, you got it. Right, like nothing was gonna be done publicly, so nobody could say or do anything. But you know, you were gonna get it when you got home. But like your style of parenting, like it didn't matter one way or the other. Like whatever way you're gonna parent is the way that you're gonna parent. You're not trying to hide that. And honestly, like I think that's a better way of doing things. But again, I think my parents were afraid of the state coming in and taking us.
That's what I'm saying. American people are traumatized by they've got this Stockholm syndrome thing with the state.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with one of those people one time. I was like, you know, I was in a pretty aggressive mindset. I was on a trip, and you know, I was whatever, and I said, you don't want to do that, little state lady. I was like, you don't want to do that. I'm not the one. She's like, well, we're going to be following up with you. They followed up with me by sending us an apology letter. Yeah. Like, the state has very limited powers over what they can do. It's just they've convinced everybody that they're, like, omnipotent. But they're not. They're not. Yeah, I just leaned into Shorty. She was not in a good situation. Good song. Much love to everybody.
Happy birthday, Revo.
Happy birthday, bro. Seriously. Thank you so much.
If our internet picks up, you may see another one today.
Yeah, inshallah. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone.